Okay, so picture this. You build a personal fortune of, what, $1.1 billion.
Sure.
Forbes confirmed it just recently.
Yeah.
And you did it.
Okay.
Wow. Not tech, not space rockets, not superhero capes.
Nope.
You did it with jokes. Jokes about parking, about cereal,
Yeah.
about, those little awkward moments we all have. It's kind of astonishing when you think about it.
It really is. It sort of defies all the usual Hollywood rules, doesn't it? Where everything's about, big drama, high stakes, constant visibility.
Right.
And here we have Jerry Seinfeld. We're basically going to decode his strategy today. How did this show, famously about nothing, become, one of the most valuable, most durable entertainment assets ever? It's like a masterclass in turning the mundane into millions or billions.
Exactly. And the sources we looked at, they really map out something that's less about just being funny and much more about sharp financial thinking and discipline, like serious discipline. It's fascinating stuff. Okay, let's unpack this. We're going to break down, let's say, 3 big ideas. First, the money side, the ownership structure he set up. Second, the timing, knowing precisely when to walk away. And third, this incredible power of just looking really closely at ordinary life.
Sounds good.
So to get to that $1 billion number, you kind of have to rewind, play back. Seinfeld grinding it out in these dimly lit New York comedy clubs.
Right. For years.
Yeah, for years. Just watching people, nailing those tiny little frustrations we all feel but maybe don't talk about. That was the craft, the foundation.
Yeah.
But then Seinfeld, the show, gets the green light in '89. And he makes this huge financial bet. Something totally different from what most TV stars were doing then.
Yeah, that's the crucial part. See, back then, the standard deal for a big network star was a huge upfront salary. Get paid big bucks per episode.
Right, instant wealth.
Exactly. Cash in hand. But Jerry, he played the long game, a very quiet, very long game. The key move wasn't about maximizing that weekly paycheck. It was about demanding ownership, getting a piece of the show's back end.
The back end. Okay, we hear that term thrown around. But what did that actually mean for him, practically, back in 1989? What was he asking for?
It's basically the bedrock of the whole empire he built later. It means owning a share of the rights to everything that happens after the show airs on NBC the first time. So, syndication, the reruns, re-airing rights, international sales, licensing for clips, eventually DVDs, and now, critically, streaming. And you have to remember, in 1989, that was a pretty radical thing for an actor to demand. Usually, the network or the studio kept almost all of that.
So he traded maybe a bit less money up front.
Potentially, yeah. Compared to what he could have demanded just in salary.
For a permanent stake in the show as a business asset.
Yeah.
He wasn't just an employee anymore.
Precisely. He wasn't just selling his jokes or his performance time. He became a partner selling an asset that could generate income forever, theoretically.
So every time we watch a rerun or stream an episode now, he gets a piece of that. Still.
Exactly right. And the payoff, it wasn't instant. It took time for that value to compound. But when it hit, especially with syndication kicking in big time, it was like an earthquake. Yeah. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of millions flowing his way by the 2020s just from those ownership rights. It's like cultural compound interest.
And the scale, let's just pause on the Netflix deal for a second. The sources peg that global streaming rights deal at over $500 million.
Wow. It just shows you the incredible leverage that comes from owning the thing itself. Think about it this way. He likely made more money from signing that one Netflix contract just because he held that ownership card than, say, a huge movie star might make from starring in 3 massive blockbuster films.
That's crazy.
It's the difference. He traded his craft for equity, for permanent ownership, not just a temporary paycheck.
Okay, so if that ownership agent is just printing money, and the show is a cultural phenomenon generating billions, it makes you wonder, why on earth would you stop?
Right.
Which brings us perfectly to the second pillar of this whole thing, a really bold decision to end the show in May 1998.
Yeah, the strategic exit. And he did it right at the absolute summit. 9 seasons in, 180 episodes, #1 show on TV, culturally dominant. It was almost unheard of. A creative decision, purely.
But hang on, was it just creative? The source mentioned NBC basically offered him a blank check, right? Over $5 million per episode to keep going.
Oh, that's the reported number, yeah. Staggering.
That would have made him the highest paid TV actor ever at that point?
Yeah.
Wouldn't taking another, say, $100 million right then have been the smarter business move? Just for liquidity.
But that's where you see the difference in thinking. It's about building disposable income versus building a legacy asset. He said no to that massive immediate cash injection specifically to protect the permanent value of the asset he'd already built.
Well, how so?
By stopping. Yes. By ending the show when it was still universally beloved, still firing on all cylinders, he guaranteed it remained pristine. There was zero chance of it trailing off into those, awkward, flailing final seasons that so many great shows suffer from.
Right, where they run out of ideas or the quality dips.
Exactly. No dilution of the brand. No tarnishing the legacy. That decision was fundamentally about preserving its rewatchability, its timelessness, which is absolutely critical if your long-term plan relies on syndication and streaming deals.
So the goal wasn't just about maximizing earnings now, but maximizing the show's future value in the rerun market. Interesting.
Precisely. For a product like Seinfeld, which relies on being endlessly relicensed, purity is everything. If they'd tacked on 3 more mediocre seasons, the overall perception and therefore the future price tag for those rights could have dropped significantly. Ending it sharply created this perfect closed loop of high-quality content, and that reinforces the value reflected in that, $3 billion plus figure the show has generated in total revenue since its first run?
Wow. So this raises an important question. Maybe the smartest move when you've built something successful isn't always to expand or keep going. Maybe it's preservation.
It suggests that, yeah, his approach seems to be minimalism at scale. Do fewer things, do them incredibly well, and crucially, own as much of those few things as possible.
Okay, but none of this financial wizardry or strategic timing works if the core product, the comedy itself, isn't rock solid. So let's shift to that creative engine, the actual jokes, the observation.
Absolutely, because that's what fueled everything else. While other sitcoms were doing big relationship arcs or zany plot twists, Seinfeld was all about tiny shared annoyances. Why is it so irritating waiting for that gas pump nozzle to click off?
Yeah.
It's the deal with people who talk too close. It's not deep philosophy, but it's deeply universally human.
Yeah, that relatability factor. The sources call it micro-recognition, that feeling when you laugh. And it's not just because it's funny, but because you think, oh my gosh, yes, that happens to me. I thought I was the only one.
Exactly. It transforms this sort of private internal grumble into a shared public laugh, a catharsis.
And think about the phrases that came out of that. Soup Nazi, re-gifting, yada, 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 double dipping.
They became part of the cultural lexicon worldwide. That kind of intense, immediate connection with the audience meant the brand became incredibly strong, incredibly foundational. It was built on truth, really, not just manufactured jokes or celebrity hype.
And it wasn't luck. His process for finding those truths was anything but accidental.
Oh, no. Far from it. It was rigorous, systematic, almost like an engineer's approach to comedy. We know about his method, right? Writing every single day. That famous don't break the chain calendar system.
Right, marking off each day he wrote.
Yeah. It wasn't just about meeting deadlines. It was about building this relentless creative habit, a flywheel constantly churning out polished, observed material. That sheer discipline and observation became his edge, his moat, you could say.
Here's where it gets really interesting. He takes that core skill, that observation engine, and he doesn't really change it post-Seinfeld. He just changes the setting. Look at comedians in cars getting coffee.
It's brilliant because it's so simple, right? Deceptively simple. 2 funny people, a cool car, coffee, conversation.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate low-stakes format, but it delivers high insight because it's just observation again. Observing conversation, observing quirks. It's such a natural, almost effortless extension of his original brand. He showed he could evolve, find a new platform without changing his fundamental approach or chasing some hot new trend.
So the big takeaway there seems to be, you don't always need the revolutionary invention or the epic high-concept story. Sometimes the most valuable thing is just looking closer at the everyday stuff, the universal things hiding in plain sight. And if you can articulate that and own the way you articulate it, that's where the lasting value is.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's try and weave all this together now into this idea the sources touch on, legacy engineering. It emphasizes how Seinfeld was almost ruthless about staying in his lane.
Yeah, very focused. He didn't suddenly chase big Hollywood movie roles after the show ended. He didn't become a political commentator. He didn't try to build some giant production company that needed him involved in every single decision. He seemed to grasp this fundamental difference between needing presence and having possession,
Explain that a bit more.
Well, think about a lot of celebrities. Their income, their relevance, it often depends on them constantly being out there, being seen, being in the spotlight. Presence.
Right, staying relevant.
Jerry's power, though, it seems to come more from possession. Owning the content, owning the rights, controlling the afterlife of Seinfeld, the licensing deals, the streaming agreements. The assets themselves do the work, generate the income, whether he's physically present on a red carpet or not.
So when the show wrapped in 98, he didn't just fade away. He went back to the beginning, in a way.
Exactly. Back to his roots. Stand-up comedy, sharpening his act, taping specials, and then slowly, methodically, building that next platform with comedians in cars, which, by the way, Netflix eventually bought.
Reinforcing the whole ownership cycle again.
Precisely. And that consistency, that predictability over decades, it builds enormous trust in the market. People know what they're getting with Seinfeld. There's a reliable quality, a reliable voice. That consistency is really the bedrock of his passive power. The ability to earn tens of millions a year, decades later, without constantly needing to be hands-on.
It's like he engineered a product, the Seinfeld ecosystem, that could thrive and make money almost independently of his daily involvement.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it feels like Jerry didn't try to beat Hollywood at its own game, the game of quick fame, big splashes, constant attention. He sort of outlasted the system by playing a different game altogether.
He didn't fight for the spotlight.
He bought the stage. Through those shrewd ownership deals early on, it really demonstrates that quiet, consistent ownership can ultimately be much more powerful, much more enduring than chasing temporary noise.
So what does this all mean? When you boil it down, the Seinfeld empire, this billion-dollar fortune, wasn't really built on just being funny or getting lucky with a hit show. It was built on remarkable clarity of thought. Knowing when to say yes to ownership. Knowing when to say no to more money when preservation was key. And deeply understanding that, well, attention fades, trends change. But owning the asset, that can be permanent.
Yeah. The final lesson here really is about reinforcement, isn't it? Jerry Seinfeld basically identified his core skill, that intense, relentless observation of everyday life, and he treated it like a precious compounding asset. He polished it, protected it, and leveraged it through ownership.
Right.
So if you're out there listening, maybe chasing success, the lesson might not be to jump onto the next big thing or pivot constantly. Perhaps the smartest move is to go deeper into what you already do uniquely well. So let me challenge you directly. Take a look at your own life, your own work, your own perspective. What's your version of nothing? What's that small thing you notice or do or think about that maybe others overlook? That thing that feels uniquely yours? Could that, with focus, discipline, and maybe some smart thinking about ownership, become your foundation? The final takeaway is really about that. Deepen the well you've already dug and start treating whatever comes out of it like a real asset. Protect it, refine it, own it.